to our next speaker, who is coming up, who's going to share with us about another potential business structure, the cooperative. So I'd like to just quickly introduce Doorae Shin, who is the Oahu chapter coordinator of Surfrider Foundation, and she's also on the board of directors of Kokua Market, which is a local cooperative business. So yeah, without further ado, here's Doorae.
Are my slides in here, Alec?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my face. Google's dangerous. Okay, so hi everyone. Hi Joe. I see some familiar faces in here. I'm just gonna use my voice. Is that okay? Can you guys hear me? I have a pretty loud voice. So my name is Doorae. My paid job is with Surfrider Foundation. We actually just had a big cleanup up in Manoa on campus today. I think we cleaned like 1,000 pounds with 100 people from the stream. So this is a nice change in energy. And then in my free time, I'm on the board of directors of Kokua Market. And how many of you guys are already familiar with Kokua Market? And then keep your hand up if you're an owner, member. I think just Kelsey's a member. Cool. Okay, so I know you guys are kind of like starting up ideas, projects, business concepts. So Alec and Kelsey just wanted me to come in to talk about co-ops as a model. And not that you'll necessarily turn your idea into a co-op, but that you can take some of the value systems and the reasons why co-ops become co-ops and maybe integrate that into your ideas. And feel free to jump in at any point if you just want to like comment, add something. I'm definitely not like a total expert on this issue. Yeah. I can use the mic. Yeah. But yeah, feel free to chime in if you guys want to ask questions or add anything. Happy to make this a discussion. So, why do co-ops exist? So typically, co-ops are a bunch of people, a group of people who have like a shared need for resources or services. So I've been to, when I was traveling over in Olympia, Washington, it's like this, have you guys heard of Olympia? It's like this little hippie town. But they had like a bike co-op, they had a dance co-op, they had like a co-op for everything. And that's kind of like the vision of cooperatives, is that we move away from this for-profit model of business where it's just purely about the business making a profit on a bottom line. And it gets kind of closer to that B Corp model where it's a triple bottom line and a lot more people benefit rather than just the CEO or just the founder or owner. So it's more collaborative. There's typically shared values and there's benefits for a larger number of people. And oftentimes co-ops come from a place of attempting to have a greater social and environmental impact beyond. So it kind of goes beyond traditional hyper-capitalism as we know it today, and into a space where we can make money or benefit the community or offer our goods and services without, destroying the planet around us or destroying community. So it kind of brings that opposite in where we can actually build community. So, maybe I just want to do like a little feel for you guys. Can you name any co-ops other than Kokua Market that you might know of, whether it's here or elsewhere? Yeah.
Well, when I was in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, I used to work for Rainbow Grocery, which is...
What was it called?
Rainbow Grocery.
Rainbow Grocery, yeah.
And that started, we were one of the first worker collectives back then that was in the food industry. And we all own shares and all of that. It's a very successful model, actually.
Yeah, so food co-ops, which is what Kokua is definitely one of the most common.
Friends with Farms?
Friends with Farms co-op, so that's a local co-op here in Waimanalo, and that's a bunch of farmers who decided that it's easier to work together as farmers rather than separately and kind of distribute their products together at farmers markets and such. Any other co-ops you guys have heard of or know of?
Childcare.
Childcare, can you explain that a little bit?
I've seen it with young kids, super young kids, so parents will come together to create groups for, the ones that I've seen are typically parents who aren't working,
Yeah.
They come together to share the duties.
Yeah, so parents with like opposite schedules share childcare. So it could be like that. It doesn't have to be like an entity or a business model, but it can just be like, hey, let's do things together. It'll make all of our lives easier rather than living like in our separate homes and separate families and separate schedules, is finding ways to collaborate. My friends and I did this. We once a week would get together and we went to Ross and got like the same size Tupperwares. We each got 4 32-ounce Tupperwares, and we had like a meal sharing program. So once a week on like a Monday, we would get together and we'd make 4 servings of a meal and then distribute them amongst each other. So then we'd leave with 3 new meals, and then we had like our meals for the week. So that's like a micro version of a co-op. But yeah, so Kokua is much bigger, but and yeah, it's owned by its members who share the benefits, and it thrives on sharing and collaboration. So it's really this like alternative economic system. So we can have food and consumer co-ops, like food co-ops, Kokua Market. These are examples of consumer co-ops. There's one in Waimanalo Co-op, which is the people come and they shop there, basically, and the shoppers can become member owners. Housing co-ops, there's art co-ops, farming co-ops like I talked about. Credit unions are an example of a cooperative. And if you just look at a credit union alone, you can see how many of you guys are members of a credit union? Yeah, I mean, you probably have noticed from switching from a bank that it's much better for you as a consumer. Like, they're not going to screw you over with crazy fees. The overdraft fee is like $2 instead of $25. So it tends to be a lot more compassionate in its operations. So Kokua Market works. It's a $150 membership. I'll just preface this whole presentation by saying that Kokua Market's been through a really challenging time. We actually almost closed our doors, but we opened in 1971. And so we've been around for basically 50 years. We almost closed our doors over the past year, so things have been changing and there's a lot of change happening now, so we're not necessarily perfect, but for decades, the model has been $150 for a lifetime. We're probably going to change that to an annual at a smaller fee to keep members engaged. But then you become a member owner, and then you get benefits and discounts. You get to vote on the board of directors. There's 9 board of directors that serve for 3-year terms. And then there's also an annual meeting. And other, like, we used to give discounted, like, $8.50 movie tickets if you were a member. So the benefits have changed over the years. But most co-ops, there's some kind of membership fee that you pay, and then you get benefits and voting privileges, and you get more of a voice. But anyone can shop at a co-op, typically. But if you become a member, you get just better deals. And governance, there's a board of directors. So I'm one of 9. We're elected and we're volunteers. And we basically are the boss of the general manager. And we hire and fire the general manager. And then there's management, which are paid staff that manage all the operations. And then employees who execute the operations. And then the owner and members, we have about 4,000. Well, I guess like 5,000 now. 4 to 5,000 members, because we just had a big member drive campaign, which saved our co-op. We raised like 200K from our community who bought shares and became members, or increased the amount of shares that they had, and we were able to save the co-op because we were really close to closing. Which is what I was talking about here. So the members can be asked for additional funding. And that's why co-ops are so cool, is because you have this community of people that are, a lot of them have been part of Kokua Market since like 1971, And I heard this story from my friend who's one of the first owners, and he said back in the 70s when Kokua was first starting, they were literally like under someone's garage cutting a block of cheese into like 20 pieces. And that was what Kokua Market started as. And then it turned into, they had India Market. You guys know India Market? It's like right here on the corner. That used to be Kokua Market. And then several years later, they moved down to their main location here on University and King, next to that big new student housing building. So it's grown over the years, and the owners have this really deep attachment to Kokua, because if you go to a place like Safeway, it won't be like Kokua. Like, I met half my friends at Kokua Market, because you go in and it's just like really good vibes and it's just really relaxed. It's not run like a super uptight, rigid business, because it's just like about community. Oftentimes you see like employees dancing in the aisles, and it's just like a really silly community vibe. You're always running into people. It's a health food store, so you know that people who shop there have shared values with you, and then you know that like everything you're buying is contributing in a better way than if you go to a Safeway or a Times. So it creates an alternative for consumers and a place for the community to gather. And we also have, we're also really proud to be an incubator for local businesses. So we have farmers, local businesses, we have businesses who started here on Oahu as like the smallest scale you can get as a business, and retail for their first time at Kokua, and now they've expanded to tons of other locations. So we see ourselves as incubators for local businesses, and a lot of, like Shakamoa Eggs, they're a local egg producer, and they only sell at Kokua Market. So when we were going through a hard time and we couldn't pay them anymore, so they stopped giving us product, they were out of a place to sell, right? So people really rely on a place like Kokua to continue their business operations and for their livelihood. So these are local farmers and food producers and other product makers. So I'll just give you some background on Kokua as a case study. So the mission was really to provide access to healthy and sustainable foods. And this is kind of part of, why we did have a challenging year, was because now Walmart has health foods and you find organic products at Target. So there has been increased competition, but back in the 70s, there was no organic food, and all these consumers had to come together and say, we need to buy this ourselves, but we need to buy it together. So it's like a buyer's co-op. But yeah, now it's great that organic food is so popular. You can get all your stuff at Costco, essentially. But Kokua is one of the only locally owned, at this point, it's one of the only locally owned stores in Honolulu for grocery. I think Food Line might be owned locally, but they're not a health food store, and Down to Earth is owned by a company in Malaysia. So Kokua is the only one where most of your money will stay here in Hawaii's economy. And really, like, it started because people know, like, our food system is broken, and industrial agriculture, corporate control, we have a health crisis, and so Kokua provides this beautiful haven for people who want to access really good food that's local, it's fresh, it's organic, it's not sprayed with pesticides. We probably have the most holistic produce section. It's the least amount of conventional produce and the most amount of organic products on our shelves. So this is something that we specialize in providing that to consumers who want to make better choices. And it's just a better way to provide food to people. We're all going to eat at least 3 times a day, sometimes more. So it puts people and planet over profits. It supports the local economy. And we have tons of fair trade, local organic products. So that's why food co-ops in particular are so great, because it gives everyone this awesome alternative. So we're the only co-op in Honolulu, and we're the oldest co-op in Hawaii. So currently the chair of our board is Lori Carlson. Some of you may know her. She had the Honolulu Weekly, which was that great progressive, I think it's a newspaper. It's a newspaper. And she's the chair of our board right now, and she's the one who actually created the law. I don't know exactly, the guy who spoke before probably knows, but it's a Hawaii revised statute. It creates a section to categorize your entity as a cooperative. So she was the one who created that, so that was back in the 80s. And this is just kind of like a list. We have like everything you need. Basically, I won't go through them, but and like I said, incubating local businesses. So Sky Kombucha is one example. You guys know Sky Kombucha? They're pretty popular now. But when they first started, it was just Dave and Shannon, just a couple. They graduated from the Richardson School of Law, but then they decided to start a business in kombucha, and they do all their operations out in Waimanalo, and they have all their Sky Kombucha on tap. They have it at Hawaiian Brian's. They have it like all over the island. It's pretty amazing how big they've gotten, but their first retail was at Kokua Market. and they really see us as like the reason that they've been able to become so successful. And they're still locally owned. They operate out of Waimanalo, and they have a really cool zero waste program. I'm kind of digressing, but this is really exciting. They have a cool zero waste program where you can, every Sky Kombucha bottle you buy is 25 cents extra, and then you get the 25 cents back when you return your bottles, and they do a cleaning and refilling of bottles, so it's kind of like that milkman model. So they're really passionate about zero waste, which is another thing that Kokua specializes in, is our zero waste efforts. Supporting local farmers, of course, and small scale ones too. A lot of backyard farmers, so people who just have tons of lychee in their backyard would just come and be like, hey, I'm just going to drop this off for like 3 weeks out of the year, and then they get money for that. Like any of you guys could do that, but most stores wouldn't accept your produce, but Kokua will, so that's really cool. And then shopping zero waste and in bulk, because this whole like awareness around, I work in plastic pollution, I've been doing that for several years in my career, and it's like, people are super excited about this, like how do we not use plastic, and how do we save our oceans, and how do we reduce our waste? And Kokua Market has, I think it's like 12% of our store is bulk, and I think Whole Foods was like 4 or 5%. So we're like really passionate about our bulk section, because you can come in and leave with no extra waste, and you actually have saved money using your own containers and buying in bulk all your staple groceries. So that's really great too. We have the highest quality deli too. Even Whole Foods, they use tons of GMO conventional ingredients in their deli. Not to hate on them, I actually still go there, but their ingredients are just lower quality, and Down to Earth will use like other oils that aren't that good, but Kokua Market's really committed to using local organic ingredients, and only like olive and coconut oil, which have like been scientifically proven to be the healthiest oils to be consuming so far. Science is always changing around that, but. And we always have like inclusive options, gluten-free, vegan, allergen-friendly options for everyone. This graph I found, this is the market share of US food and beverage purchases, so it shows like Walmart has a huge chunk. This has probably changed since I got the graph, but it just shows like where American dollars are going when it comes to groceries. And you know, right now, probably Whole Foods and Amazon are gonna go way up there because Amazon now owns Whole Foods. But just thinking about, like, it's great to buy an organic product from Amazon, but it's far better to buy it from a locally owned store, because so much more of your money is staying here and not leaving our economy. And the more money that leaves our economy, the less community resilience we have, and the less sustainability we have, and the self-sufficiency and food security. So Kokua is really, you know, one indicator of food security and self-sufficiency, because so many small-scale farmers and conscious consumers rely on us to be part of their daily shopping and eating habits. And then one of the last things I want to highlight is just like our people, and that's really why I joined the board and why I care, because like I said, I met like half my friends there. It's a really special place that gathers awesome people. We have dozens of staff, over 4,000 owners, and it's truly a community. And when we were about to close, I would run into people like just in the community who I knew were owners of Kokua, and this woman I know, she was like, I've been crying all week. Like, I don't know what my life is without Kokua Market. Like, I'm so sad. It's like one of like the places that brings me joy, just to like go there and like meet people and run into people I know. So people like really love Kokua because of the connections that they've made there, and then just the energy, the difference in energy you get as opposed to shopping at a traditional grocery store. So these are some quotes that I captured from our employees over the past couple years. Kokua Market is my family. I come here on my days off. I love my job and I have fun here. We have a lot of employees that will like leave and then they'll come back. So it's like, instead of a turnover, it's like we have a high comeback rate. Like they'll go all travel and explore the world, and then they'll always come back to Kokua to work because they don't want to work anywhere else. And I feel socially, politically, and economically aligned with the values of Kokua. So it provides an opportunity for, if you're going to have a business or entity that has employees or volunteers, it really helps to grow something that is meaningful and something that people feel attached to and aligned with in their value system, because then you're going to create a resilient model for retaining your staff or volunteers or whatnot. And this place feels like home. So the only food co-op in Honolulu. You don't have to be a member to shop. You can become an owner. Like I said, we've been going through challenging times, so the store's like not fully built out yet. We were like on life support for a year, and you would come in and the shelves, we have these like dramatic news stories where like there's just empty shelves as that cover photo of a news story. But now the shelves are filling back up, and we always have deli, hot, fresh deli food, great place to get lunch if you haven't been and you want to check it out. And I'm really passionate about it because cooperatives, you know, it's 2019, we all know about climate change, like we're in a really like transitional, urgent time where fast action and change, cultural change is really important to whether we're gonna, as a species, stay on this planet for many more generations. So cooperatives to me are the alternative we need for the future that we all desire, right? A healthy future, communities are thriving, people are healthy, the local economy is thriving. In a place like Olympia where I saw so many co-ops, you know, you walk through the town and you don't see a single chain, restaurant, fast food, nothing. Every business in the town is a locally owned business. And that's the culture that they've created, and that's kind of goes for a lot of the cities and towns in the Pacific Northwest, is that's just culturally what they've demanded. And so the more we can do that with our everyday purchases and our eating and shopping habits, I think that those, you know, if you don't feel like becoming like an activist full time, like that's really the best way every day that we can make an impact. And we know that our food system is one of the best ways we can make an impact too. So those two together, food and economic systems and being able to impact that every day, you know, is really, really important. So yeah, because we survived our challenging time, we're having a celebration weekend. I just wanted to share this in case you're interested in feeling the vibes and coming out Friday, May 10th and in the evening, and then Saturday, May 11th. And it'll kind of be like, Friday will be like a little more mellow. We'll have like fresh tacos outside and like vendors. But Saturday will be like a bigger farmer's market type thing where Banan will be there doing their dairy-free soft serve, and we'll have lots of vendors and samples, and it's 10% off for all owners that whole weekend. So yeah, I hope to see you guys there. So that's kind of gonna be like our grand relaunch, reopening type party with live music the whole time. And to show some information, we cut our hours while we were struggling, and now we're reopened for longer hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there's always free parking in the back, and this is our social media. But basically, the purpose of this was just to share like cooperatives as a model for, you know, an entity you might be open to creating. But in general, whether you choose to do that or not, I think that it's just a great thing to keep in the back of your mind of, I can integrate values and I can grow community as part of my business and not just be so focused on making money and building engagement with my specific product, but that it can be broader and more holistic. So yeah, that was it. Yes.
So what like tax entity do you guys have to form under to
My understanding is that we're both an LLC and a co-op. Like I think you can be both. So I think that's kind of how it's structured. But I'm not 100% sure on that actually. But I know that we don't qualify as a nonprofit. So I think that under the eyes of like the state and the feds, we're like a for-profit that operates as a cooperative.
Aren't you a corporation? Because
Yeah, we're like it's like we're like a nonprofit business basically, and we definitely haven't made profit for a long time operationally. But yeah, I mean, I think technically we're like a business, but Some cooperatives don't run as a business, but in terms of this, we have to just because there's so much expenses and revenue flowing in and out.
So what do you think is, oh sorry.
Go ahead.
What do you think is the scale for like co-ops? Because like when they talk about like VC stuff, they want to see, you know,
Scalability.
yeah, whereas what I'm hearing like for a lot of co-ops are like targeting like one region or, you know, focusing on one community.
Yeah. Well, co-ops can grow just as fast as a traditional business. I mean, there are co-ops in the Bay Area that have like over a dozen locations. I would say most co-ops stay between the 1 to 4 location range. They don't tend to go much beyond that, but that is definitely possible and does happen for co-ops that are really successful. I think co-ops, our biggest weakness, I won't speak for other co-ops, at Kokua Market was that it was like a bunch of hippies trying to run a business, and most of the time hippies don't know how to run a business. We didn't really know how to read a financial report, which is why we were struggling, because we were like, oh, this has been happening, but we just were like looking at the financial reports like without any expertise. So with that said, like co-ops can be very successful if you have the right people involved who have that, you know, that eye and that knack for business. So I think Kokua will get there, and definitely like any co-op that if you guys were to start one could totally be successful as long as you have the right people on board financially.
Do you know what Olympia did to make the co-op culture successful there? What was it?
I don't know what it is, but I think in general, like my understanding about the Northwest is that they've had more time to develop a culture. You know, and Hawaii is fresh out of colonization, so we just haven't had as much time to ripen as a community in the new culture that's been created post-colonization. So I think we'll get there, and I think we're getting there at a faster rate than even they did, if you look at that historical context. But I think that Hawaii is will definitely be I think even better than the Northwest pretty soon, because we already have the values of this place, which is connection to land, connection to each other, community. I mean, everyone here calls each other auntie, uncle, brother, sister, so you already have that family vibe. So I think, but over time, I think it's just that culture and the consumer demand. And when co-ops start, participation, and actually people being excited and joining the co-ops is big. But having 4,000 members in a town like Honolulu is pretty impressive. So just increased participation, I think. Yeah.
So is there a requirement for the owners to volunteer?
No, when they first started, owners did volunteer. So when Kokua first started, there was no paid employees. Everybody, I think they were managing 300 to 500 volunteers back in the day. And then, culturally we got to a place where people needed to get paid for things. So things have changed over the years. But you can volunteer now for 3 hours a week and get 15% off all your purchases forever if you maintain that 3 hours a week. So it's still an option for people, but not required at all. Yeah.
Can you talk about your most recent membership drive?
Yeah, so our most recent membership drive, when we basically thought we had to close our doors and give up our lease, was we said, if we're gonna sell 1,000 shares, and if we don't sell 1,000, and each share is $150, and if we don't sell 1,000 shares by this day, then this was earlier this year, then we're gonna close and we're gonna give everyone their money back. So what we did was we collected money online and through checks, and we basically just collected them, didn't deposit anything, and so the goal was 150K, 1,000 shares. Because each member has 1 share, but in our bylaws it says every owner can have up to 20 shares, which doesn't at this point get you any additional benefit, but it allows you to invest more in the store if you have the financial means to do that. So we were able to get, I think it was about instead of 150K, we got pretty close to 200K. So we obviously decided to stay open. We also got additional funding from Ulupono, and other groups for grants and loans that are helping to hold us over until we get operationally stable. So that was a successful member drive that I recommend to any of you, because Hawaii is definitely a place where people will come and help each other in times of need.
I have a question about that. So, what is the online platform that you use to facilitate that pay?
Oh, well, we have a GoFundMe that's still active, and we created the GoFundMe just in the very beginning. But for the share campaign specifically, we couldn't put money in anything that would deposit it into our bank account, because it would make it available to creditors to just like take the money that we owed them. So we just, because we owed people a lot of money, but we're getting better now, I'm paying it back. But we had an online form that they would sign up, and they could send us money through PayPal, because PayPal holds it in a kind of like a purgatory, so we never have to deposit it. Or the traditional, because we have a lot of older members who joined in the 70s who are now in their 70s, who just can't do online stuff. And so they would just mail in a check, and then our board of directors was just hoarding like a stack of checks. So that's how we did it. I tried to digitize everything, but they're like, no, half of our members are old, so they just can't do the PayPal thing. So.
I have kind of an opinion question.
Okay.
It's completely unrelated.
Yeah.
So, if I'm thinking about your co-op, I'm thinking about like REI, and these places are like community holding spaces. But like for these guys, tech companies, or future tech companies, is that, like, without having that kind of connection, that experience of connecting, is that something that makes a co-op possible? In your opinion?
What were the two examples you gave?
Like REI and you guys. I mean, these are like a grocery store, and they like a collaborative space where folks are able to come in and buy clothing and do recreational activities. But tech is so disconnected. So there's not that community aspect. That makes it all right.
That's a really good question. I haven't heard of a technological co-op. I'm sure they're out there from a quick Google search, but I do think that the power of co-ops that I've experienced personally comes from the human interactions you have. Like in Olympia, you go to the bike co-op, and some dude that everyone knows his name is like fixing your bike, and it's just kind of like that. It's like that human connection. But I'm sure that there are ways that technology can step up and create authentic connection, even if it's not always face-to-face, or maybe it creates opportunities for more face-to-face interaction. And there's like the Center for Ethics and Technology or something, or Technological Ethics or something like that. But it's a group of activists who are trying to turn apps and high-power tech people to turn apps into like more compassionate ways of honoring the human spirit. So rather than feeding addiction, it could actually like help the world and help people get through mental illness and things like that. So that's kind of something that came to mind, is a way that technology can be more compassionate and community oriented, but definitely not an expert on it.
I actually wanted to turn that question back to the group, kind of. Like, I actually don't know of any technology businesses structured as cooperative, but I definitely don't know all the businesses out there. But I mean, having heard what Doorae's had to say, and thinking about your own projects, or just about what you know in your sector, or in technology, the stuff you guys do you see ways that cooperative structures could come into that?
So like the citizen scientists, they use school children to collect data. It's not a co-op necessarily, but it's the idea of community crowdsourcing the something for a specific problem, like, oh, we see this, we need this problem solved, but we need data. It's when they ask for data.
There's that sharing aspect.
It's the sharing aspect.
Do other people have thoughts?
Yeah. So like, maybe like Chad's company, maybe you could turn it into a co-op, because, game designers, everybody needs like shared services, right? So perhaps, a co-op could exist where the services that they would need could be like shared by the group as a whole.
think it'd be interesting to see, like, in the ed tech space, like apps targeted at teachers instead of, you know, for-profit companies running them, like teachers who create the value in the network, like, so things when your data is networked together, you know, that could add value to the a lot of time.
Well, it seems to me like you could have like a blended model where maybe the tech stack enables the communication of the community members, like through the platform, but then, to me, co-ops, because I think of a co-op environment, it's all about the human factor. It's not, you know, trying to interact over Skype or something. It's about creating that community space where, if I was working at Rainbow, same thing. You know, if you couldn't get out of there, just go in and shop. You had to spend at least an hour with hobnobbing with all your, you know, people that you meet in the community. So it's an experience, and I think that's what makes co-ops very attractive in today's very technology-oriented world. So maybe the technology would enable one facilitation of that, but then you'd also have to have a physical space, I think, to engender that sense of community. That's what I would consider.
I think also we might be entering like an era where we have to accept that we might lose some of the human connection in some of the future co-ops that develop. I think we'll always have the traditional co-op model where it's about meeting the people in your local community and growing that space. But I mean, something that comes to mind is like time banking. And that's something that here locally, I've seen it fail and then succeed, and then like kind of like as a roller coaster, like multiple times, because there's not good technology for it. And I even tried to participate where I had a membership and it was on this online website, but it just wasn't very user friendly. It was kind of clunky and like kind of outdated feeling when I used it. So maybe time banking is a space. And if you guys aren't familiar, it's like where you can give an hour. So I could give a yoga class to somebody and I bank 1 hour or whatever the currency is. And then now I have money because I gave someone something. So it's like a gifting economy. And then someone could teach somebody about gardening for 2 hours, and then they get $2 hours. And then you get more money when you give more. And it's kind of this closed loop economy. It's kind of like a local economy online. And it's typically with a local region, like a Honolulu region would be an example. But that's an example of where technology could be developed to facilitate that. So I think there's opportunities to like facilitate that could encourage human connection, but also could like stray away from it. Like my friend once had an app idea that was like basically a Uber, but for anything. Like, and we were like, we should call it any kind. But it would be like, I just need, like, everyone's super busy. I just need somebody to like go pick up 10 lunches for this meeting. And you just put it on this app. Can somebody go do it? And then somebody who's certified and has reviews goes and does it, and then they get $10. And it's kind of like just creating jobs for people, because everyone is busy, and some people need money, some people have money, and there's tasks always to be shared and delegated. So that was like kind of a cooperative app idea that we had. So
TaskRabbit stole your idea.
yeah, no, there's definitely other people who have developed that since, but there's not one here yet.
I mean, one of the things that fascinates me so much about the cooperatives, like the model, is that you, by having all of these members, are allowing the community to design your business, and they all have a say. And in terms of like a tech company, what is, because of the scale of technology, what is your community? And if that community is all employed, whether that's disconnected between islands, or if that scale beyond goes to the world, then how do you get everyone in the world to be designing the company? And so I think that that's like this sort of blueprint going forward is, if you want to design a company that's space operations, then if you're doing tech, if you're trying to do massive impact, then maybe cooperative structure is the best way of making that design happen.
Yeah, and one example that's beyond just the consumer co-op is like an employee-owned co-op. So some food co-ops and other co-ops are not like member customer-owned, but they're employee-owned. So the employees have a stake and they actually get a percentage of profits, which tends to create a really thriving system operationally, because everyone has a stake in the success of your business. So that's just something that came to mind.
unfortunately, we're out of time for the cooperative discussion. But I really want to thank Doorae for being here. And